Hi, this is Chris Miglino with Sequire Spotlight, and I am here with Desmond Wheatley and from BEEM Global, trading on the NASDAQ under BEEM. Now, everybody's got electric cars. I got one. I love it. I will never own anything but an electric car again in my life.
I'm the same.
Well, you know, my kids, the other day, my daughter was saying, I want a new car. And I said, great, you know, what kind of car do you want? And she told me she wanted a Mini. And I said, oh, well, okay, that's great. I go, you know, you got to fill that up with gas all the time because we have two electric cars. The one she drives now is an electric car. And she said, oh, well, I'll get an electric car then because she knows, you know, she comes home, plugs it in, doesn't have to pay for it on her own. Yep. It's the ideal teenage car.
It really is.
It really is.
But otherwise ideal.
Well, the one she has is a first generation Nissan Leaf that I got.
Very wise.
And it only goes 70 miles on a charge,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so I can kind of keep her within a radius around the house, so I'm safe. But your product is very cool. I know you have a few products.
Yes,
The one that I saw that I think is very cool is it's the product that you can literally, without doing any construction, install this unit, and it's ready to go, ready to start charging cars. Tell us about this.
EV charging with no construction, no electrical work, no utility bill. And because we'd have to do construction and electrical work, we never had to do any permitting anywhere either. We are deployed all over the United States, and we're providing the same charger. We're agnostic as the provider of the charger. So ChargePoint, Blink, Electrify America, their products working on our products. We're just replacing the construction and electrical project, replacing the utility bill. And very importantly for many of our customers, like the Army, like New York City, where we are today, like Marine Corps, our products continue to charge during blackouts and brownouts. So we're also an energy and disaster preparedness asset.
So the unit itself has a battery in it.
That's right.
And it charges the battery through the solar?
Yes, all of our products generate and store their own electricity. We make our own batteries uniquely in the industry. We acquired a battery company a couple of years ago, having bought product from them for 10 years. I guess that was the technology due diligence was done for us. Then we just had to make a deal with them, which we did, an excellent deal. And so now we make our own batteries. All of our products generate and store their own electricity. And that way we can charge vehicles day or night or during periods of inclement weather, all from renewable sources.
All right, so tell us about your products that are going after the market.
Well, I mean, as you correctly pointed out, the world's going to have an awful lot of electric vehicles in the next couple of decades. I mean, a staggering number of them, actually. There are 290 million cars in the United States, 319 million in China, and 405 million in Europe. All of them are going to electrify. We have the fastest deployed, most scalable, lowest total cost of ownership, and actually most robust EV charging infrastructure solution out there because we're able to deploy without doing any construction or doing any electrical work. Each one of our products generates and stores its own electricity in our own proprietary battery technology and then delivers that electricity to any off-the-shelf EV charger. Because of that, we don't need to go through permitting or construction or electrical work. We never get a utility bill, and we continue to operate during blackouts or brownouts, which is really important to our bigger customers like U.S. Army, Marine Corps, and New York City, for whom charging their vehicles is not just something they like to do, it's mission critical.
So you have some good customers for this product.
We certainly do, and we've got tremendous growth. I mean, 300% year-over-year growth last year, and that was up from 100% the year before that, 50% the year before that. And yes, winning the most discerning and the toughest to win customers. New York City is not an easy customer to win. We're charging their fleet vehicles summer and winter. You'll see them all over the city, our products. U.S. Army, similarly not easy to win. We have a GSA contract in place now with the federal government, which I think it took us 18 months of due diligence, technology due diligence, financial due diligence, and everything else that had to get accepted on that contract. But the good thing is once you're on it, the federal agencies can just point and click to buy the product. And the U.S. federal fleet is the largest fleet of vehicles in the world, the largest consumer of diesel and gasoline in the world today, the largest consumer of electric vehicle charging in the world tomorrow, and they're a good customer of ours. In fact, they're our largest customer at the moment.
So talk about the business model. How does it work? Are you competing with the charge points of the world? No. You're enabling them.
Yes, that's exact. Thank you. That's a beautiful way of putting it. We do not compete with the electric vehicle charging companies at all. ChargePoint, Blink, Electrify America, and now all of those companies have their products operating on our products. What we're replacing is the construction and electrical project that would normally be required to put one of those chargers. If you think about it, normally a charger sitting on a lump of concrete next to a parking space, someone's dug a trench, they've run wires and poured concrete, they've done some electrical upgrades and all that sort of stuff. We displace all of that. And so from a competition stack, if you like, we compete with the general contractor, the electrical contractor, the entire ecosystem, consultants, engineers, zoning specialists that you would normally have to hire to dig up your parking lot and run a wire. We get rid of all of that. It's just easy button.
What's the average cost of installing one of those that you have to dig up the floor and everything?
Well, so I can tell you, in New York City, it costs about $2,000 a linear foot to dig a trench and return it to asphalt. So the length of your shoe. Right. 100 feet, you got a couple $100,000 in trenching on it. What's a really good metric for us is that with hundreds of deployments across the United States in every conceivable environment, in almost every case, the cost of our products, the capital purchase of our product, was less than the avoided cost of construction and electrical work required to put a charger into that location. Thereafter, when you have no utility bill, there's essentially zero cost of energy to power your vehicle because you don't have to amortize the cost of the equipment because you save that on day one. So break-even ROI is day one. Thereafter, you're driving on sunshine for free.
Oh, that's interesting. How do you, if let's say you have a busy one and the electricity gets used up in one, then what happens?
It happens. It does. Quite often what happens, people will buy a single EV ARC unit from us. Very happy with it for a while because we only got 1 or 2 people driving electric vehicles. As I said, we can charge up to 6 vehicles at the same time, plug in 6 employees for workplace charging. All of them will get their daily range replenishment before they go home that day, even in California where people only spend 2 or 3 hours a day in the office, right? The problem is, once you put that in and those 6 guys have finished, everyone else sees this and says, hey, I want to own an electric vehicle. This is fantastic. And so now our customer comes back to us and says, hey, that EV ARC can't keep up with all the demand. Well, that's not a problem. Congratulations. You've just done a great thing. You just charged 6 employees with no grid connection, no construction, no electrical work. So how do you solve for it? Add another EV ARC. If the economics were right for the first one, they're going to be even better for the second one, and so on. It's like Lego. You want to play more blocks.
And who's buying that from you? Is it the charging companies, or is it the location that wants the charging to be there?
A little bit of everybody. So the 3 areas that we really go after, number one, fleet, definitely, because fleets are adopting electric vehicles very quickly, sometimes because it makes so much economic sense. They don't have fuel costs, they don't have maintenance costs, much more reliable, much easier to understand and predict. But also government mandates and other things go on it. So fleet's a big part of it for us. The next part would be workplace charging, where we're deploying corporate environments for employees and guests of that corporate environment. And then the last one will be what I call municipal top-off. So dotted around town, you go to lunch somewhere, you're there for an hour, you pick up your daily range replenishment plugged into our unit, no utility bill, no construction. In each case, the ownership stacks actually can be different. Sometimes it might be the charging company, might be the campus owner, might be the fleet operator. We don't really care. We're just providing infrastructure to make their charging needs happen. And actually, one of the things I like about the industry so much is that unlike diesel and gasoline, which has been really monolithic, single industry, yes, few players, but single industry, single fuel source, all that sort of stuff. Where electric vehicle charging is much more like Wi-Fi. You're going to have a whole host of different reasons for deploying it, an amenity or to bill for it, or as part of some kind of program. But what you're going to see is charging everywhere, ubiquitous, wherever you go, just like Wi-Fi in the next few years.
What does it cost for one of these units? What do you? Well, you have a few of them, but what's the cost?
Yeah, for the one we've been talking about, the ASP $70,000, and as I say, that is much less than the construction and electrical work required to do a grid-tied installation.
That's to charge 6 cars at a time?
Yeah, and never get a utility bill.
Right.
Even the cheapest installations of a grid-tied charger, we beat them on TCO, total cost of ownership, because by the time you pay that utility bill over a few years, we went out again. The other thing that's really nice about our products right now is, because of the environment that we're in, our products are eligible for the federal ITC, which is a 30% in tax credit, not a deduction. So if you spend $1 million, you get $300,000 back against your federal tax liability. We're also eligible for Rule 179 depreciation, which means that you can depreciate the remainder within the first year, even though it's a 20-year product. And actually, you can depreciate 85% of it, so 15% bonus in there, trying to get a bit complicated here. And then 30C on the charge is another tax credit. So in the current environment, there are a lot of incentives for our corporate customers who can save a great deal of money. So big company buys $1 million worth of our product, they're probably going to be out of pocket about $600,000. You don't get that digging trenches and pouring concrete and all the other things like that. They're not eligible for those types of credit.
And you can move these units.
That's very true. And I'll tell you something. I mentioned Google Earth, very dynamic workforce. Some building for 6 months or something like that. One was you can pick that charging infrastructure up and you can move it somewhere else. And then actually one of the other very compelling use cases for it is all of our AVRs go out with an emergency power panel on them too. So they're not just charging cars, they're providing electricity to first responders, police, fire, EMS, or whatever. All of them in New York City have this, for example. And we've had instances where customers during some kind of disaster type of work, COVID was a good example of this, fleeting their AVRs from locations, office locations where they were underutilized, to COVID emergency healthcare centers and that sort of thing, so they could replace the diesel generators that are around them. The biggest acquisition that we ever had in the state of California came from the Office of Emergency Services, OES. Why are they buying EV charging infrastructure? Because as the state electrifies its fleet vehicles and as consumers electrify their vehicles, OES knows that if there's a disaster, wildfire, or an earthquake or something like that, there'll be no power for a long time. They can fleet these units into those locations, keep people charging their vehicles, but also provide emergency power to other uses while they're there. It's a beautiful model.
And how many of these have you sold?
We're about 1,600 in the United States today. And remember, that's not a number of plugs, because many of them go out with multiple plugs on them too. And if you look at a map of our deployment, which you can see on our website, you will see that they're in the most fantastically diverse locations. This is one of the trickiest things on the technology point of view. We're operating in Mercury, Nevada, in direct sunlight, where you could fry an egg on the unit in sunlight. We're operating in the Midwest, where it gets down to -40. We're operating in Florida, where we've got hurricanes. By the way, the units are flood-proof to 9.5 feet. So we have 9.5 foot inundation important in New York, where they've had flooding problems with rising sea levels and storm surge. Also wind rated for 160 mile per hour winds, but in fact survived 185 mile an hour Category 5 winds down in the Caribbean.
Wow.
I didn't even think they were going to do that. But they're very, very well made. Made in America. Don't let my funny accent fool you. So a made in America product. We make our batteries in America too. We're very proud of it.
But now you're going to Europe. Tell us what's going on over there.
Well, it's an even better American story. We're now exporting American technology into Europe. Yes, in October of last year, we completed an acquisition. That gets us into the largest market in the world. It is by far for EVs. And I'm going to tell you something. It took us 5 years to get our first $1 million contract in the United States. 5 years of hard slogging. It took us less than 5 months to get our first $1 million contract in Europe.
Wow.
It's a military using it for overseas bases. The demand over there is just completely different than it is here. It's much more. They've passed a law outlawing all but the sale of electric vehicles in 2035, and they have a net zero electricity generation mandate for 2050. So our products fit perfectly with what they're doing over there. And because it's a larger market, because of these mandates being in place, I think we're going to see a much faster growth in Europe than we saw here, but not at the expense of growth in North America. It will continue at pace too.
So, I mean, I just think your business is poised to continue to grow. I mean, you've already had incredible growth, like you mentioned earlier, but just because you skimmed over it so quickly, let's talk about the numbers again. What was the growth here?
We did $6 million of revenue in 2020.
Okay.
We did $9 million of revenue in 2021. $22 million of revenue in 2022.
That's the bump.
And then $67 million of revenue in 2023. So 6, 9, 22, 67.
Wow.
And what I will tell you right now is...
And we're at the infancy of
we do not even have main engine ignition yet. Right, we're still on the pad because the demand is so enormous and the urgency is getting greater and greater. And demand and urgency are music to our ears because we're faster deployed and more scalable than anybody else.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations on the business. I think this is, you're well positioned to, really capitalize on the growth of the electric car market. What about China? Can you get these things into China?
Yes, we can, but I'll tell you what, we are so busy with North America and so busy with Europe, and frankly, the political environment is not brilliant for moving to China right now. So I think what you will see us do is you'll see us capitalize on North America and Europe, and then probably one of the next big markets for us could be Middle East, and then gateway to Africa, because Africa, oddly enough, Africa will be a massive EV market, because just as they went straight to mobile phones without ever deploying copper, when that continent starts to deploy cars, they will end up deploying electric, not gasoline. And with a gateway in the Middle East into that market, we'll have a tremendous growth there too.
So how many cars in Africa? Is there a lot there now?
No.
So it's all growth.
Yes, exactly. I mean, basically, Africa is like another 3 of the United States, totally untapped at this point. And car ownership's very low there for capital already. And as I say, when that changes, which it inevitably will, they'll go straight to electric. And by the way, one hates to capitalize on this, but our facilities in Europe are just south of Ukraine as well. Fingers crossed when the good guys win in Ukraine, there'll be a massive rebuilding there. I do not think you'll see them building gas stations. They will go straight to the newest technology. They'll electrify. We have electrified streetlights that operate off-grid. We have EV charging that operates off-grid. We're able to rebuild their power infrastructure and give them electric vehicle charging, but without taking decades to do it.
Do you guys build do you buy the solar panels from other providers? So you're not manufacturing?
Anything that's a commodity, I stay away from. You've got large, very well-funded entities making those things better and cheaper every year. We concentrate on the stuff that's really hard to do, that only we can do.
Like the batteries.
Exactly. We have lots of patents in our batteries. We have lots of patents in our EV charging product. We're not patent junkies, though. We only go after patents that we think will add a great deal of value and create a lot of barrier to entry for our competition, and we've been very successful at it.
BEEM Global on NASDAQ, BEEM. Thanks for being with us here today. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.